Hello YouTube comrade, clicking phalange. I'm Clementine, and as always, I'm Super Saiyan.
But never mind that.
This is a 1967, somebody's crusty luggage. We'll get back to that. Hey, this is a 1967 General Electric porta-fi wireless speaker system, high fidelity, that we're turning into a guitar amplifier. In the past two videos, we created an input on the amplifier and designed a Fender style dirty gain circuit and tone stack. In this video, we're going to finish building that circuit on a DIY circuit board, and I'm going to show you how to use capacitor staging to use the same gain circuit to make a cleaner tone with almost the same amount of output. I'll also show you the schematic for that. But this video today is pretty much going to be about one thing: reverb.
Today we're talking about a DIY reverb for only £0.90. It slices, it dices, it'll even make you a curry.
Engine food seems to do the trick. Maybe it's the cumin.
And this is a DIY reverb special episode. And you're watching Heavy Metal ATC on YouTube. And in this episode, we're going to talk about 3 different types of DIY reverbs that you could recreate for yourself with sounds, so you'll see which one you like the most. I actually set up an audio experiment so you could hear them in real time. We are then going to use what we learned from that to design several circuits and test one. And I'll show you all the schematics. Then I'm going to actually build a DIY reverb top to bottom for this amp out of junk from in my house. I'm going to do this spending no money. I'm going to go look through my empire of dirt and fire up the coffee pot. I'm gonna try to do this all in one go, even if it takes like 18 or 20 hours.
Condensed on video, of course.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. When I get done with all that, I get to play that son of a bitch. And even though I ain't spending no money, I'm gonna try to find some wood and make it all pretty and get me some glass as a light. We'll make us up some DIY wood stain and match it to the amp. I should have everything in my junk closet I need. I got a quarter tube of solder. Wait, I gotta be fair. Solder runs out. It costs $4 a tube, so we're changing the title right now. Yeah, I can do this. This is mine. DIY reverb for $1 episode. Special episode. That intro was as long as the lead solo at the end of Freebird. So sit back and kick your feet up. Eat a Tide Pod. Get some popcorn, maybe a beer. Rotate that cassette of legumes that is not ugly. That's a baked bean joke. Okay, so let's get back to modding this little amp. We said we wanted to make it sound like a 1965 Fender Reverb Deluxe.
How about we take a listen to where we were at the end of the last video?
So, I'm really happy with this. I mean, in person, this thing really does sound like a hot-rodded Fender amp. I couldn't believe it when I hooked that tone stack up. It did it right. But the thing about a 65 Reverb Deluxe is it has reverb. I believe I also have tremolo. Mine's going to, at least. It needs to have that squelchy, down in a cavern full of springs sound. When you hit the strings, it's supposed to go. What exactly I'm going for in this video is the sound of George Harrison's rhythm guitar on Sgt. Pepper. Sure do hope there was an awesome clip there that sounded like Pepper. And I hope I can make this all work. I put a tall order on myself here. But to make this sound like what I hope it did sound like just now, we're gonna need reverb.
We're back again here with the DIY reverb. And we've set a dish to cooking right before the show started. The DIY reverb can cook up your chicken scratch, even when frozen. Just add some cumin for an authentic flavor.
Maybe it's the cumin.
And now back to Clementine for an explanation of the secret spices.
Okay guys, this is part of the video that we talk about the 3 different types of reverb that you can easily recreate with little or no money. And we're going to see exactly what each one of those sound like. Okay, here's a guitar and amplifier. This should be pretty common and known to everyone. I set up a little audio experiment. There was a recorder and a microphone right in front of the amplifier. This amp and microphone has been placed in an isolated room, and you will only hear exactly what the microphone hears, which is only the amplifier's output. Every audio sample will be collected in exactly this way for the duration of this experiment. So we have a guitar and amp, and when we strum it, sound comes out. Okay, so you follow me? All you can hear is the amp, but it sounds dry like the guitar on Revolution. And we want to make it sound different for cheap, so we need reverb. Okay, so the first kind of reverb we're going to talk about is chamber reverb. People do this in bank vaults or bathrooms. Any mostly empty room with hard surfaces works. We're going to do this in a medium-sized room covered with pine boards. Okay, so you need another sound source like a guitar amplifier in this room. You should be in an isolated room or sound booth, and when you play the guitar, the sound will come through both amplifiers at the same time. So, when the sound is blasted into this empty room, it creates reverberations and reflections. And we need a way to capture these reverberations and send them to the amplifier. So a microphone is used. This was first done on commercial recording in about 1935 or so, when an extra amplifier was placed in a tile bathroom. A small mixer such as this helps very much in this occasion. The reverberations can also be sent to a computer and mixed inside of a DAW through a USB audio interface. The same can be done with pre-recorded sounds. This is known as reamping. But since we aren't reamping and we only want to catch the reverberations in our microphone, we're going to use a screen, which in a recording studio usually comprised of a mattress and a wooden frame, but it can be as simple as duct tape. It could in fact be made of nearly anything as long as it blocks the dry original sound from the amplifier and allows only the reverberations to come through. Then both the dry signal and the reverberation will be heard through the amplifier speaker cabinet simultaneously. As you can see, this is a pretty subtle change, but the amplifier, the microphone, the speaker, the screen, they can all be changed to achieve different sounds. Different size rooms can be used, different wall coverings. You can even place effects pedals on only one or the other of the amplifiers and gain some pretty insane sounds that way. This would probably be why I'm a hoarder and why my entire dining room walls and ceiling are covered with pine boards spaced about a 1/4 inch apart. Okay, so what if you want a really dramatic change, or you don't have much room to do this in, or you're in a treated dry studio with no echo? Well, here's how you do that. This is basically a small swing set with a giant sheet of steel on it. This sheet of steel or aluminum may weigh between 30 pounds to, in high-end German studios, maybe up to 1,000 pounds, back in the 30s and 40s. Well, we're going to take the speaker out of the amplifier and mount it to that sheet of steel. Now if you pluck the guitar, it will vibrate that big piece of metal. So now we need a way to capture those reverberations and send them to the amplifier. That'd be done by attaching a contact microphone. I know that might sound complicated or expensive, but it's really nothing more than a small piezoelectric speaker from a talking greeting card. You're gonna die soon, yeah. So now when you play the guitar, both of the sounds will come out of the amp simultaneously. A lot of high-end studios pride themselves on their plate reverbs, and many people think this is the best way to make reverb that has ever been devised, and it's hard not to agree. The only downside to this reverb would be that they're huge and that they're heavy. And if you want to record in the same room, you have to build an isolation cabinet that's going to be even bigger and even more heavy. This is the unit that you are hearing in the demonstration. It was built exactly like the diagram, except for I put it in a wooden cabinet with a plexiglass front. And as you see, I use springs to suspend it for a little bit extra reverb. And that brings me right into the next section of this. Spring reverb. This is a reverb tank. This is a metal box with two springs running down its length, and in the far left and right sides are coils. The one on the left acts like a speaker, and the one on the right acts like a microphone. You can think of the little box as a hallway, and the springs are the air getting reverberated around by the speaker. And then of course pick back up. So let's wire this up and see what it does. As you could hear, there wasn't very much reverb. Now let's look at this. The signals going in and coming out are much too small. There's a way you can fix this. It's a little bit complicated in wiring, but it's simple to show. You need an amplifier going in and an amplifier coming out. Now let's hear that with a proper signal gain level. I'm sure you could hear there was much more reverb that time. That's because the signal was good and strong, and it shook those springs and it picked them up and amplified that too. Well, that's it for explaining the types of reverb. Now let's go on to the next part. So we're going to design a few circuits now and test one and prototype it. So let's go ahead and look at some schematics. Well, here's a reverb tank and an input jack and an output jack. The input jack will be connected to the preamp, which is receiving a signal from the guitar. And the output will be feeding into our amplifier and speaker cabinet. The wiring will be arranged right around through here in a sort of a loop. Coincidentally, this configuration is called an effects loop, or FX loop for short. Well, let's take a look at this first circuit here. I do wish I could say it would be this simple, but as we learned a few minutes ago, it's not going to be.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
As we had found out earlier, there are just simply not enough vibrations being fed into or received from the reverb tank.
The vibrations from the cars. Oh, I love when this car went by.
So, what we need is a circuit with two amplifiers like this. And we might need to turn that dry signal on and off in case we're going to use this in a studio just as a reverb. Or in case we only want the reverb spring sound for some type of specific recording. The way I figured out to make it easy for myself is to just use a 2-channel stereo amplifier that plugs into the wall. That way we don't have to worry about any kind of power sources or putting 2 batteries in it, prevent the grounds from getting mixed up with each other. So that's going to be about it. I think this is what we're going to make right here. Also replace that switch with a potentiometer so that we could mix the signal of dry and wet together in any combination. Alright, YouTube phalange clickers. We designed a few circuits and I selected one, but the only way to test something made out of pre-designed components that we gather from junk, we'll have to build it. So now it's time to build a DIY reverb out of junk.
To the junk closet, I shall show you
My empire of dirt.
Well, would you look at that? It's a computer. There's a bunch of synthesizer-y bits and all that jizz-jazz. Well, look, it's the Chronic on LP.
Lovely jubbly. Well, we've arrived at my glorious junk closet, and that is a face to a broken modular synthesizer I built. And this is what we need here. An old twin reverb that's been gutted out. I know what I need out of there. This red toy piano has 15,000 views on YouTube because it's circuit bent, and there should be some computer speakers with an amp in it or something like that in here. And oh yeah, briefcase would make a great reverb case, and I can make that match my amp pretty good because it's from the 60s. Well, let me put the camera down and dig here in this
Empire of dirt.
So the first thing that I got was this springy box from that old amp, and it's a reverb tank. This is the most important part. Also got an old set of computer speakers that plugs into the wall, and they have a 19-volt AC amplifier in it, which puts out 5 watts per channel. That should do good. Then we got this crusty old briefcase, but I'll make that pretty. So I stuck a wooden lid to a chocolate cordial box in there, and I mounted the reverb with 4 big old fat bolts, and I temporarily mounted the transformer so we can start to prototype this thing and test it. Well, here's Spaghetti Town, and that's when I learned some things, and they weren't exactly good things. So, okay, this circuit here with only the reverb, this works just fine, but when you add this wire and the switch or potentiometer here to make it into an effects loop, yep, because that effects loop ain't the only thing we created. We've also created a feedback loop and a ground loop. And if you look at this black ground wire, you're probably going to have a differentiation in voltage in between the two. So when you touch it together, so that ain't going to be very good. In fact, it won't work because it's Okay, so say we think we're clever and we're gonna go ahead and attach this black wire before we fire it up. Well, then... Do I know exactly what's wrong? Yes. Do I know exactly what to tell you so you can build this circuit on your own immediately? Hell no. Or as we say in the South, hell no. Or more specifically, hell no, don't do that. So this has to be right, huh? This is the last thing we did. It's gotta be right. And I have to know I can fix it, because nobody really shoots and edits a video in chronological order, right? Guys, I messed with this thing, and I messed with this thing forever, and I could not get it to play guitar and reverberation at the same time. It'll do one or the other just fine. You hook that black wire together, you get smells, bad smells, lights go dim. It just had me like... So I went on against my word, and I went to the couch, sat down, I ended up falling asleep. But one of them life is weird things happened, because when I woke up, I knew exactly what to do. Exactly. I don't remember having any kind of dream, but if I did, I bet it was crazy.
This is Public Broadcast BBC 3, and you're watching Captain Transformer! Well, this cretin is known as Ground Loop, and he's quite a bad character.
I'm gonna bang this reverb joint.
And this tall, nervous fellow would be his partner in crime, Feedback Loop. He runs an oscillation ring.
Hey, I didn't mean nothing, man. I just like things loud. I like to party.
Together, these two form the infamous Loop Gang. They've been known to start fires and cause public disturbances with loud screeching noises. But who can stop them? Captain Transformer! Taste my decoupling ray, fiends! When I regain my sight, your gooses are cooked. Oh no, what will happen to our hero, Captain Transformer? Will the Loop Gang get the best of him? Will he save the day? We'll figure out when we're back with a quick word from our sponsor. Do you ever have itchy, painful, angry hemorrhoids? Then reach for the Golden Hole. Ask for it by name. Golden Hole Hemorrhoid. Sorry to interrupt your normally scheduled programming, but this just in. Captain Transformer has put the two crooks safely behind bars and saved the day once again, with the help of his partner, Adjustable Resistor. Okay, let's take a look at how he does his work. His skeleton is solid magnetized steel, and his muscles made of acrylic-covered solid copper wire. When an alternate current signal enters the wire on the left, it vibrates his iron core and is received on the right. It's magic, but I'll tell you what's really magic. If you double the amount of copper wounds on the right side, the input will be amplified. But that's not what's important in this situation. The important thing in this situation is that the signal is making it through the wires without the wires touching one another.
Okay, so as soon as I woke up, I went and found Captain Transformer's hideout. It was inside this jar on the original PCB board from this internet router that I turned into a LFO and tremolo unit. Adjustable Resistor was found hiding among his peers in this populated urban area, as you see the skyscrapers in the background. So this is the circuit I ended up using. I went back to testing, and it worked. I just cannot tell you how relieved and happy this made me.
Feel the motor running up my legs.
Oh yeah, that motor was putting out some vibration. So I cleaned everything up with some zip ties and some hot glue, and then I placed the transformer in permanently with a good old piece of that red board that I used to make the circuits out of. I really like the way this thing looks. The wood that I put on it's pretty cool, and I riveted that stuff on, and it's all good except for this part. So I installed a light pipe made out of a clear ink pen, and I'm gonna make the panel for it something like this, except for I'm going to sand the back of this glass bead, which I take from a button, and glue a threaded nut to the back of it, and then glue it into the light pipe. So let's get to drilling some holes. We drilled the big holes for the light and for the knob, then I drilled the small holes for the rivets to go through. After that, it's sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding. Then we do some test fitting. It looks okay. Time to rivet it on. This is what the light panel looks like installed. This is what it looks like when it's lit up. Okay, now to make some DIY stain. I tried several different methods to match the cabinet. You can use coffee or tea bag or different types of extract, but what I ended up using was a mixture of Kikkoman soy sauce and coffee ground and hot water placed in the microwave.
Let's see how that works.
And now to seal the wood, I am applying a light oil with a piece of newspaper with black ink on it to add a little color. And here it is, all cleaned up.
Ain't she purty?
Okay, so we built that DIY reverb out of junk, and now is the video done? Well, hell no, we gotta talk about circuits, and I'm sure you want some kind of a demonstration of what all these little electric doobly-doos sound like, so I gotta play that son of a bitch. Alright, here's the circuit from the last video, the gain circuit, and it's all finished up, soldered, populated. We're gonna flip it over. Look at this ugly solder on the bottom. You can comment in the little doobly-doo below about how ugly this solder is, and I'll agree with you and comment back that it works. I placed a little fake tube over the LED I made out of some solder and a pin cap. I may place a window of some type on the amplifier so that you can see it light up when it's clipping. So now, how do we go about turning this nasty sounding circuit into a real clean one? Well, we're going to do some capacitor staging. We're going to start with a bigger one, put a smaller one, and then a smaller one. And let me show you why. You have this audio signal coming in here, and it's going to be pretty high gain and dirty sounding coming out the other end. Then when you go to the first capacitor, which is a big capacitor, I'm sure this will make sense if you watch the last video. If not, you may need to go back and watch that. It'll take the high end down. Then the medium sized capacitor will take the medium frequencies in the sound down to a lower level. Then the small capacitor will take the low end sounds down to a small level, and then you'll get a good even lower gain signal coming in that still has a lot of gain coming out on the other end. It'll just turn this circuit into a clean boost, and this is what the schematic for that looks like. And here's where I was testing on a proto board. I've already checked the circuit out. It works pretty good, and I'm gonna build it right beside the other one on this red board just like this. That'll be in the next video when we'll also talk about tremolo. And now time for a sound demonstration of that reverb briefcase box unit thingy.